Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you're having a good start to 2021. I know we're all kind of looking forward to a fresh start and a new year, and I really hope that we're able to have a year that's filled with more peace and ease, both on a personal and collective level. I wanted to talk a little bit about being versus doing. So I think in my last email, I talked about setting an intention for the year, setting an intention for your life, and then allowing that intention to guide your goals and your decisions on a day-to-day basis. And one thing that we have to always kind of balance is when we're working towards goals or when we have a vision of how we want to be, is this balance between doing and being present for our life. And I found it interesting this morning when I was doing my Qigong practice. I have these little tiles they're kind of ceramic tiles, and they have Zen sayings on them. And one of them says, "Move and the way will open." And one of them says, "To a mind that is still, the entire universe surrenders." And it's those two that we're trying to find our middle ground within. So moving, taking action, and trusting that life is going to unfold as it needs to. And then finding that place of stillness within where there is surrender and there's opening to what is. And the other day, I'm teaching an introduction to mindfulness class for the clinic that I work for called Kestrel Wellness, and it's in Utah. I actually do telemedicine, but within our group, one of the men asked a very good question, and he said, "My work requires a lot of planning and remembering from the past." He does cybersecurity, and he was asking about, how do I just stay present, because I need to plan and I need to remember things and make sure that we don't make the same mistakes. And it's a really beautiful question because it speaks to this idea of being versus doing. We are human beings, Homo sapiens, human being. So the human part of us is kind of the doer. We're in this physical body that is constantly doing things moment by moment, whether we're conscious of it or not. There's a constant doing. And then there's the being. And I think what happens a lot of times is that the human part of us takes over and we no longer are able to simply be. And so the mindfulness practices that I teach and meditation help us to tap into the being part of who we are. And if we can find that balance of doing and being, then we're going to find a lot more peace within our lives. Because when we're so caught up in doing, it wears us down, it's exhausting, it's stressful, we feel overwhelmed. What's the next thing that I have to do? And if we can pause in those moments and simply tune into the moment, what do I feel in this moment? What thoughts am I observing without necessarily having to believe those thoughts to be true or having to act on those thoughts right away? So I invite you to find, maybe 3 times throughout your day where you can either set an alarm on your phone or do it before each meal, where you simply take a couple of moments to simply be, feeling your feet on the ground or lying down if you need to, stepping outside into nature, and simply being, tuning into the felt experience of your life. We become so detached when we're constantly doing. We become detached from the essence of who we are, which is this presence, this being right here and now. And having a formal meditation practice is one powerful way to practice that element of simply being and not having to do all of the time. And I think what you'll find is as you center yourself in the present moment more and more throughout your day, one, you're going to be able to be very present when you are doing. So you're going to find that you can start to merge the two a little bit more, where when you are doing something, you're fully present for it. And you're actually tuning into your felt experience while you're doing something. And then you'll also find that you have some reserve. It's kind of like that being, those moments of being are a reset, a refueling to then be able to act in the world. And it gives you somewhat of a fresh perspective, because when we're so caught in our thoughts and we're constantly acting and not tuning in, we start to become reactive and we fall into habitual patterns that maybe aren't serving us very well. So the more we practice these moments of being, whether it's in just simply being mindful during our day, taking that pause, or whether it's in formal meditation where we set aside 5 or 10 or 20 minutes a day to simply settle ourselves and focus on our present moment experience. So I would be interested to hear your thoughts, your experiences with this, and maybe throughout the next month to play around with this, of finding your own balance of acting and definitely, being a source of good in the world through our actions, and then centering back into the present moment and allowing ourselves to simply be. So I wanted to give you a couple of updates on a couple of the projects that I'm working on. I still have my online courses. One of them is mindfulness in sport, and one of them is looking at the transition to life after sport. And interestingly, through the process of creating this transition to life after sport course, I shared it with a former military, he's called an executive officer, so he was one of my leaders when I was back in the Army. And I sent it to him, and he said, well, interestingly, now that I'm retired, I feel like a lot of these topics that you address relate to me, and it might be helpful for people who are both active duty in the military and retiring. Because in a sense, living life in the military is similar to high-level athletics. There's a huge component of commitment. There's a big source of social support oftentimes that when you no longer have that, you can fall into the things that I talk about in the course that can happen after athletics. Depression, a loss of identity, anxiety, fear, overwhelm, confusion. And so I'm now working on a project that looks at mindfulness and meditation and helping with transition for active duty service members and veterans. So it's a similar type of project, it's just a different population. So if you know of anybody who is in the service or has recently retired and would like to do an interview with me, I would love that. I'm simply gathering information right now to then create a project to hopefully help our service members and those who have served and are no longer active duty and who may be struggling to make that transition, and how we can bring in practices like mindfulness and meditation to help make those transitions more smooth. I hope you have a wonderful month, and don't ever hesitate to reach out. You can reach me through email. We can do one-on-one sessions with mindfulness and meditation. I am also looking for people who are interested in joining a mindfulness group. So I hope this finds you well. You have a wonderful month, and I look forward to connecting.